quadrants work, so that one will be able to place themselves in the different quadrants and also have an understanding on how these quadrants work. We use these preferences on a daily basis. These preferences are being used on different platforms, on different functioning. Could be at school, could be at work, could be with relationships, and relationships would be with your fellow classmates, your children, your partner. We use these preferences in how we choose friends, how we make decisions. The car that you would want to drive, it's solely based on such preferences. And learning styles, because at the end of the day, we are students and we have a preference in terms of how you would want to study and learn the information that you have to go write or present with. So you need to know which style works for you. I know how influential our society can be. So one needs to not be influenced by what works for the next person, because it might not really work for you. So I hope the outcome of the presentation will ultimately assist us as fellow students to be able to understand the processes that you would need to use to be a better student, and the information that you're studying, it's easy for you to recall. What is brain profiling? Brain profiling at a comprehensive learning and thinking style assessment. We assess how would you learn best. We also assist and assess how your thinking preferences are. How we check your learning preferences is on a grouped questionnaire that you would need to go through. And then at the end of the day, the results will group you according to the quadrants. Again, this brain profiling assesses the primary factors that influences your learning receptivity. We have left brainers and right brainers. In this regard, you would need to understand which left are you, which right are you, and what influences your brain. What is it that makes you to be able to pay more attention? What is it that distracts you during your study time? What is it that makes you to remember the information, so that you use that very same thing on a repetitive way, and then it will be easier for you to remember the information. And again, brain profiling assesses and provides insight into your thinking preferences. All right. It sheds some light on certain things that one needs to do. Let's say you want to get into a business. When you do this assessment, or when you ultimately get brain profiled, you'll have an understanding of what kind of a business would you want to go into. Or again, what kind of a career path should you follow? You will have an understanding whether you're a person that prefers to work with people, or you rather prefer to work with gadgets. I mean, people that go into computer science, it means they prefer to be communicating with certain objects compared to having to socialize with people on a daily basis. Again, it helps you to choose a career path in a way that would you now prefer to be office bound, or you would want to be outside? Just like when you are studying, would you want to study in a more tailored place, in a more place that is too structured, or you would then want to study outside at a park where you are getting the sun, or you are studying in a group where you are discussing a certain topic of a certain module, compared to studying by yourself and writing the notes. So you would have a clearer perspective in understanding what your brain prefers. And in that way, the more you follow the method, the easier it would be for you to remember the information. It also assists in terms of personal growth and effectiveness, because you will also realize the kind of people that you are working with, the kind of people that you are doing the same modules with. This one, how do I approach them when I need assistance from them? This one, I might not even be able to read their notes because they write their notes in a preferred method related to their brain preference. Or me and Lerato have the same preference. So I might be able to understand her notes better compared to Susan's notes, because Susan's notes, it's not in line with my brain preference. I've also already mentioned all self-awareness and relationships that you will be able to create. Brain profiling gives an indication on how one communicates. And how do you act towards other people? How do you carry yourself in school, at work, with everyone that is around you? Today, we will be looking at how one would study, how one would learn using the very same method, and how one would prefer to be taught, or how one would prefer to teach in that regard. And also, are you in a career path that is satisfying to you? And what is it that is an indicator that you are in that career path that is satisfying to you? It also helps in problem solving. Your approach in how you are solving problems will be different. How you are tackling the matter that you're having with a colleague or with a fellow classmate would be different. It won't be the same as how the next person will do it. And you will also be aware that with this one, this is how I should actually approach it compared to the other one, so that the problem will ultimately be solved. And it also assists in how you're making decisions. Decisions on when do you study, how do you study, where do you study, with who do you study, in that regard. I spoke of quadrants. When we're talking of Neethling brain instrument or brain profiling, it solely speaks about the 4 quads of the brain. The brain is being divided in 4 quads, and you need to understand which one is more effective for you. And you need to also have an understanding that the ones that are low, you can improve on. It doesn't mean if you are a left brainer, then you cannot have skills of a right brainer. You can, but then you need to be willing to learn such skills, because there are other skills that when you are maybe in the work field, somewhere you are expected to have them, but there might not be your brain preference, but you need to have them to be able to meet requirements when it comes to your work. Let me start with the left brainers. We have L1. With left brainers, as you are studying, you need to have an understanding of what is it that you need to do to feed your brain so that your brain does not get bored. Left brainers, the people that are performance driven. So always when they want to study, they are always putting a mark for themselves. For this module, I'm expecting to work hard, maybe get an 80%. So they are motivated by that 80% that they have put for themselves, or they have a reference. They're able to look back and say, first assignment and second assignment, I got 50%, and then third assignment, I got 60%, fourth assignment, I got another 50. When they divide that, it's not giving me a number that I'm impressed with. So left brainers, they're impressed with numbers. They are driven by numbers. So when they are motivated to do work or to study, they're always motivated by that performance. What is it that I'm going to get out of it? And they're mostly working with preference, a preference in terms of facts. They prefer to work with facts. This aligns very well with people that are doing engineering. They're looking for facts. Something has to be done so that the result is this. Things don't just happen out of the blue. They're very critical. So always when you are talking, or always when you're discussing with such people, you need to have clear facts and clear rules around what you are discussing with them. People in law, you need to have a clear rule that is guiding or that is motivating your answer. People in maths, they have specific laws or specific formulas that they need to follow, and that will get them the results. It's not like then the theory will change today and tomorrow it applies because now you want to be that spontaneous. They are very rigid because they are controlled or they are moved by the preferred theories. They prefer to work alone most of the time, and they're quite mathematical, like they're procedural. Just like doctors, when they go to the operating room, there's a procedure that they need to follow. They do not bypass the procedure to ultimately get the final result. So it's very important that you always are able to place yourself in that regard. Am I methodological? Am I systematic? Do I want to follow one routine over and over again? Do I always want things to be right? And in terms of color, the L1 people are black and white. Even when they study, they prefer to use a white paper and a black pen or a blue pen. They do not want color or highlighters because that's very destructive to them. So when they study as left brainers, especially L1, they prefer to have a desk, a chair, a pen and a paper, an environment that is very quiet and does not have a lot of distractors. So you need, I believe as I'm talking like this, you're able to place yourself somewhere that I'm like that. I prefer that compared to that one. As an L2, these people, they enjoy planning and organizing. When they study, they plan ahead. They make sure that they have a timetable that will guide them on what time are they going to study, which module are they going to study, which chapter are they going to start with, because they plan and organize well in advance. They're very traditional and structured, meaning that they always need to follow a structure. If they plan for tomorrow and say they're going to study between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, maybe after work or after they've done their house chores, then they have a specific time assigned for that module. If something happens and it's not planned for, they get easily distracted. So you find that their day is totally ruined because the structure that they had put in place is not unfolding as they had wanted it to. And then they prefer guidelines, clear guidelines and punctuality. Like when you talk of time, when you say, let's meet at 8 o'clock at the library to discuss chapter 2, they're mostly 5 minutes or 10 minutes early. And when you are running late as their group mates or as the people that they're supposed to study with you, when you're running late, they get very irritable. They get distracted because the structure that they had put down for themselves, it was supposed to start at 5 o'clock. Maybe you have a WhatsApp group that you use to study, or a WhatsApp group that you use to discuss your assignments, and then you have agreed on specific time that you're going to meet at this time and discuss it. They are the ones that will join early. They will join early. They would remind you that, oh, we are left with 5 minutes. We should actually finish, because they're very punctual. They are task driven and they're systematic. It's easy for them to follow a routine. They do not change. They struggle a lot with change, and it's very difficult for them to function without a clear structure. Like, let's say you agree as a group that you are meeting on Wednesday, 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock. Next week, you should not change the time and say Wednesday it's not working, let's use Thursday, because they have already put a structure in place that will work for them. So it will be very difficult for them to now fall into the new structure. We have the R1s. The R1s are very flexible, and they enjoy change. It's very hard for them to be in an environment that is structured. You will also see by the career path that they choose. They choose the more flexible career path, like they are project managers. They are people that enjoy traveling. So a lot of the work that they choose, it's very free and flexible. They take risks a lot, and they're driven by ideas. These people are not implementers, but then they are strategists. Even when they study, they don't study with pen and paper. They just look at the textbook and they read through. Because now, if they understand the idea, if they understand the concept when they are studying, it's going to be easy for them when they are explaining or when they are writing a test or an assignment. It's going to be easy for them to elaborate on the idea that they got when they were studying. They are not concerned about rules. So it's difficult with them if they are to pair with L2s in a group and they have a study group together, and then the L2s are very structured and they're saying, let's meet at 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock. The R1s, they can even join the group at 6 or even join the group at 7:30 or at 6:30, because now they'll be finishing at 6. And then at the back of their mind is, but then I did join. It doesn't matter because I did join. It's not like I did not join. But then for a person who's an L2, it will be very difficult for that person to not join on time and not be there up until the time has elapsed. People in R1, they like exploring new things. So if someone says to them, I'm using this study method, they would want to try it out. If someone says, I'm using this study method and I'm getting 70s, they would want to try it out. They like exploring new things. So their way of living and their way of studying and their way of doing things, they hop from one thing to another. Hence, we say they are strategists. They strategize, they come up with the idea, and then they need the L2 to come and make things happen, plan and structure things systematically to ultimately get the outcome. The last quadrant is the R2. They are also risk takers and they are also idea driven, but they're not as flexible as the R1s. They're very social and approachable. These ones, when they study, they prefer to be in a group, because their study approach is, I need to have people around, let's discuss it, let me hear the ideas of the people. When I hear how people are understanding it, it will be easier for me to understand and put it in my own words. They're very people orientated, so it's hard. You would realize during COVID, we were restricted not to meet with a lot of people because we were told to stay away from people contact. And now, and people who are R2, they struggled a lot with not being around people and not being able to relate with people, and they enjoy touch. It's easier for them because they are more concerned with other people's emotions. So they're very playful and are comfortable with touch, even when they are studying. Their way of studying is more playful, and their way of studying is more kinesthetic. They have to touch on things for them to be able to remember what is it. They enjoy the environment where they interact with the other people, and then they are very approachable. Like when they study with people, even if they did not understand or someone did not understand something, it's easy for the next person to approach them and ask for further clarity. So these are the 4 quadrants. One needs to be able to place themselves somewhere. You're either an L1, an L2, R1, or R2. Or you could be 2 of this. Or you could be 1 and have a supporting 1. Or some will have a dominating L1, but a minor R2. Like I said, when you go to the work field, sometimes they need you to have other skills that are compensating on the ones that you are already having. So you will need to at least allow yourself to learn some of the skills that are from another quadrant so that you'll be able to function well. Right. So outlining brain preferences and study skills. I've mentioned that there is a teaching method that one prefers. There is a learning environment that one prefers. The environment itself dictates how is this person going to be able to understand. Going back to the quadrants, when we're talking of these brain preferences, remember the specific characteristics that I was highlighting with these quadrants. L1s, remember with L1s are performance driven. They are very critical. They prefer to work alone. They're very mathematical. Their things need to be right always, and they're very factual. But then how do they study? What kind of an environment do they need? They prefer to study with textbooks because the textbook is black and white, so it makes sense to their brain. They have to follow precise instructions. In the textbook, instructions are outlined on how do you have to do certain things. It's easier for their brain to capture that because it's very structured. They are very logical in their arguments. They need facts. So it's easy for them to follow the instructions and be logical in their arguments because the textbook is feeding into their brain in terms of their preferences. Where do they learn and how do they learn? Or where do they study? One, they are the ones that prefers a quiet environment. There needs to be a desk, there needs to be a chair. All the supplies needs to be ready. Like they don't want to be standing up and fetching something somewhere. If they are studying in a study room, all the supplies that they need to be at that place at once. And they research a lot because they have to have facts that they're going to argue with. They don't just read and not be able to argue based on the facts that they have accumulated throughout what they have studied. Then the environment needs to be neat. Like they can't study in an environment that is chaotic and not clean. They need information available readily. And also, you will find they might have a blackboard that they use. It needs to be accurate, like it's not haphazard. You won't find a pink paper there, a highlighted paper there. They will all be black and white. And the room or the environment has to be quiet. Not everyone studies at a quiet environment. Not everyone studies at a neat environment. But these ones, they prefer a neat environment. Like they get distracted if on the table there are other things that are not supposed to be there. They get distracted if when they study, there's music playing in the background. So you need to be able to study in that regard. Then the L2s. Remember with the L2s, they're the ones that are methodological. They follow routine. They follow structure. Everything needs to be done in a specific way at a specific time. So you should not surprise them with something new. When you have agreed on something, it needs to happen as you have planned, that it's supposed to be that way. They also study with a textbook. They're very chronological. So if they say, I'm studying chapter 1 today, tomorrow they will not go study chapter 5. They will continue from chapter 1 to chapter 2. So when they study, they also study in a methodological manner. They move from chapter 1 to chapter 2, chapter 3 to chapter 4. Whereas the R ones, because they're very flexible, they can study from chapter 7. They don't need the plan to study. And then remember, with the L2s, they work very well with timetable. So they need to have a timetable in place. A timetable outlining on Tuesday, this time, this is what we're doing. On Wednesday, this time, this is what we're doing. And they work very well under that structure. And their lessons or their study times needs to be well planned. And there needs to be clear instructions. What are we doing? What day, what time, and what is the aim of that they are doing? And there needs to be a repetitive method. If Wednesday we have met, next week Wednesday we still meet and do the very same module.
So today I'll be talking about how to be an A student in UNISA. And the first aspect where I will kick off is time management. To be an effective student, I think it all starts off with planning. One should be able to plan well and effectively. And as the saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So therefore, I think it goes without saying that we as UNISA students should all take this opportunity and always, every day, start off with a plan. I remember when I first started off my studies, I started off with an actual a time log. So essentially, an effective student has to plan their time correctly. Start off with a time log. Do not go against the time. If you say that you, as in our previous speakers, they alluded to the fact that you need to have a balance and that you need to play sports, if you have gymming, or if you have a family that you have to attend to, if you have to cook, that is all the necessity of life. But essentially, we all have to also have that balance. So essentially, you have to create a time log or a time schedule. That is number one. That is something in which students at UNISA, I've noticed in the past, have not probably tried to, especially being in an ODEL institution, has not kept to, because with all the activities that surrounds them. So number one, create a timetable that you will effectively stick to. And even if you don't stick according to it, try to be flexible in accordance to that. And number two, ensure that you have a time log that details every event of your activities. So for example, if you know from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock you're going to sleep, then try to set that time, that from 1 to 6, or from midnight to 6 you're going to sleep, and then at 6 o'clock you're going to have, or 6 to 6:30 you're going to have breakfast, you're going to get ready to go to work, because a lot of us are working and studying, or most of us adopted that, which UNISA has adopted, the work integrated learning system. So therefore you've got to have that balance. You've got to be able to have that environment where you got to have that balance. Submit your assignments on time. Now, I think that is something in which all of us, even me as a student when I was studying previously, in my previous qualification, I know that was something in which I experienced, in which late submissions is something in which lecturers don't like, and even the universities cannot contain it because of the volume, the high volumes that the student hub or the actual assignment hub cannot contain. Try to do your assignments as soon as you get your study materials. Number one, the greatest tip I would say, being a student or even being an alumni myself, is that as soon as you get your assignments and your study material, sit down for at least an hour and plan your time in accordance to the modular time. If you look at your tutorial letters 101, there is a guidance there. Try to read through the guidance of the tutorial letter, and it will give you step by step on how you should lay out your time and how you should submit your assignments. Because if you fail to do that, then chances are that time is to come for you to submit your assignments. It's going to be too late, and then there's going to be regret, and then you may not get your year mark as you probably wanted, and therefore it's going to have an effect on your examination mark, essentially. So therefore, submit your assignments on time. And we all know as UNISA students and being at UNISA that the week before assignments, or even on the day before the assignments are due, there is a bottleneck. And therefore, we want to try to rid that experience. Get rid of that experience where we submit our assignments late. We don't want to be that student, because remember, we are students that are different to other universities. We are working class students. We are students of work integrated systems. And therefore, we're the only institution that has enabled us to be like that. So if we are demonstrating that way in our studies, how are we demonstrating it in our workplaces? How are we demonstrating it in our places of workplaces of professionalism? That is not a professional way of submitting on time. Even when you are with your boss, if you have a report to submit, it's the same way. So UNISA really does give you a guidance so that when you go out to the workplace, you can act the same way. You can submit your assignments on time, your projects on time, your reports on time. And it also enables you so that you become very conscious and effective, so that whenever there is a deadline to meet, you'll be able to submit it on time. So therefore, time management is very crucial, is very important. And I would say that whenever you submit your assignments as well, that you will be able to have an effect on an understanding on how long your assignments will be able to be planned out for your examinations, because you will notice that your assignments are a preparation for your examinations. So even submitting assignments is very crucial, and you have to be able to plan your modular assignments. If you, for example, take 5 modules, then I would say, and this is very recommendable, to do 2 modules per week and set aside at least 2 modules per day of different modules. So you know by the time you come by the end of the week, 2 times 5 is 10. So by the time you come by Friday, you know you've covered up all your modules and you become a very effective student. So not only if you manage your time well, you submit well, but you also become a very effective student. So time management can also make you become an effective student. Study techniques. It is important to attempt all compulsory and recommended activities relating to your module. So I know I've mentioned about tutorial 101. Everyone is familiar with TUT 101, but how often do we ignore the instructions by our lecturers? I'm pretty sure that a lot of us just wants to get straight to the assignments, right? But that shouldn't be the case. If you are really a very good student and an A student, remember this topic is about becoming an A student in UNISA. You're not a B, C, D, you're an A student. Get straight to, in your tutorial 201 or 101, it'll tell you, read, there are prescribed books and recommended books. The tip is read, go to the library. There are resources at your satellite campuses. Go to the recommended books, open it. If you've got a student card, activate it. Make sure that you have access to the facilitation areas and make sure that you read the recommended books that are enlisted in your tutorial letters. And therefore, that will serve and aid you for an additional assignment assessments. It will assist you in the content that you're studying. You will not be left alone because even though it is not prescribed for your examinations, it will be able to give you additional information. So it will help you even in your assignments that you need to take to cover. Always use examples and go over past papers. Remember, lecturers are very abundant in giving past papers. And if you don't have access to past papers, remember the lecturers are also humans too. They don't bite, they are friendly. I will also mention it in the next slide or so. Approach your lecturers, ask them for past papers or ask them for additional resources that needs to be made available to you. Because ultimately, if you go over resources and the past papers, that will assist you tremendously in your examinations. And therefore, my last point, make use of the resource and learning centers. Myself, even being helpful to students in my previous experience at UNISA, being available at the library, making use of the RFIDs. If you're unsure, go for lessons in the library, how to take out a book. It's something which is available to students. A lot of students don't think that there are no resources made for them. There are resources. UNISA has provided state-of-the-art computer labs and resource materials for them. It's just available for the students. They need to make use of the resource centers. There are student counselors, as we see in our DCCD directed departments. Go speak to them. If you need help on citations, how to build up a CV, whatever study techniques. I see our colleagues spoke so brilliantly on how we can tackle different ways on studying. Make use of them. Make use of the resource and learning centers because they are readily made available for you. What UNISA offered for me that can benefit students. Now, when I was approached to present today, I was also to speak about my experience at UNISA. In my FYE, or my first year experience, I managed to gain credits and exemption modules that enable me to gain course equivalence. And I managed to get a credit for the module. Now, in other words, some of you must be wondering, what am I talking about? Actually, I did study through another residential university, but it was a bit of a hassle to continue with UNISA because some of the modules did not equate. So therefore, I had to get an exemption conditional letter and a course equivalence from my institution, from the previous institution, and therefore equated with the modules that I see at UNISA. UNISA readily accepted my course equivalence, and therefore I got exemptions for the module. So for students on this call here and even on this workshop, if you are feeling that you are needing exemptions or if you need certain assistance on certain courses, as we said, this is not the platform for any guidance. on that. But in terms of getting you the hope that there are hopes for you to get exempted and for conditional module for you to pass, this UNISA has centers and the student administration in which you can approach so that you can be able to make it to make it possible so that you can get the exemption from the student administration. Similarly, UNISA offers exemptions for modules passed from initial institutions, as I mentioned, and you therefore, I mentioned in my previous slide, engage with lecturers and tutors. That is so important. On every Saturday, I'm sure we have SPF classes, which is the blended learning classes for the chemistry and for the engineering students or whatever practical students that we have on this workshop. I'm sure there are a lot of practical courses that run during the course of the week and workshops. Attend the workshops, attend the tutorials in the week. That will give you the upper hand advantage to become an A student at UNISA because you're attending the tutorials. Even though UNISA is ODEL, as it is an open distance education learning institution, the campus can still be approached physically. We have campuses, regional campuses all over South Africa. So make use of it, even outside South Africa, in Ethiopia and many other countries. But this alone can be made readily available. Polokwane, we have in Johannesburg. I know we're dealing with the Gauteng region at the moment, but even in Gauteng, we have the Science Campus, the Sunnyside. Go approach the McClintock campus if you can. Make big approaches where you can, if you can make arrangements with the lecturers. It is approachable. So that is something that needs to be urged because you need to engage with the lecturers and the tutors. One of my last slide, and to conclude and to give you an encouragement, engage in hobbies. I know my colleague I did speak initially about physical exercise and gymming. Try to engage in hobbies that will give you the balance. Because remember, if you don't have the balance, and how are you going to enjoy your studies? Do something that's enjoyable to create that balance. In that way, you'll have a positive mindset. One should approach their studies with a positive mindset. And in doing so, do all activities online, making notes, their own notes. We realize there are different ways of making notes, visual aids, graphs. Take those tips. Those are useful tips, and set a realistic, achievable goal. And I go by this, and I hope that you use this. Have a professional mindset that is geared for work. We are all people in the working system. I myself am an entrepreneur. I also additionally, I work for advocacy programs, and I also have worked with entrepreneurs, business to business, building up their business plans. So we do have different engagements as well. So we need to have that and put on that professional cap and that mindset to think that how do we become an A student at UNISA? Therefore, you must have that 1:100 approach, and that is to, for every module, achieve 100% and not just study. That's my motto. Don't just study at UNISA, but try to have the 100% approach to achieve. Thank you, and I hope it really made a lot of sense to everyone, and that I wish you all well in this auspicious year of 150 years at UNISA.
I want to talk about the services that we provide to our students, the services that we offer. We have realized that the institution is going E, but we also try by all means to have physical content available for the students that are here that prefer to use the library. As you remember what Ausimpo has just said in the beginning, to say that some students prefer a desk, some students prefer a textbook. So we as the library, we do provide such particular services. So we do have the lending services. And we do also provide library trainings, which are also physical and also online. Also, we do provide request literature searches, which are part of our trainings that we do, and also research support. And as much as we do have our computer labs, library do have a library commons where students can be able to come and do their assignments and other related study assistance that they can need. We do also provide services for students with special needs. I think we do know the type of students that I'm referring to. In terms of our lending services, we also do borrowing and returning of library materials, including the renewals. As I just indicated that for borrowing, we do have an online books, and also we do have physical books in the library. As I just indicated that we are under borrowing and the returning of the library materials, Library, together with the institution, decided that as much as we are going we still have to have physical materials available for our students. So students are encouraged, especially the ones that prefer to use the physical space of the institution, to come and borrow materials that we offer, and we can also train them on how to access the ones that they can find online. The trainings that we provide to our students, it's how to access the catalog, especially to be able to assist them in terms of accessing the books that we have and the electronic reserves that we usually engage with the department in terms of electronic resources that should be available to our students. And also we assist them in terms of online resources on how to use A to Z and subject databases. So students are encouraged, as much as they use our library space and also online as well, be able to come and attend our trainings. As I indicated, the continuation of our trainings, we do also offer the referencing techniques. The previous speaker did indicate on the reference style, and we also do touch base on plagiarism and copyright as well. Our trainings are advertised on UNISA Library website, including a notice boards, social media platform, and also on individual LibGuides, which the Gauteng Library Johannesburg have. So for additional information for your assignments or your research topic, you can also request a search from the library by completing a literature search form available on the library website. As I indicated, that literature search and research support, for research support, there are personal librarians as well from the main campus who are responsible for supporting the academic needs of the students. The library also have institutional repository whereby previous research outputs are available. So students can also come, we can be able to assist regarding that. This is the picture of how our library commons are supposed to be. So students can come there to be able to access the library catalog, do their My UNISA and My Life assignments, and also use internet for academic purposes. We do offer special services for students with special needs. So we do have devices that we can also assist, especially those ones with sight impaired and so forth. The library collections, we do have your study collection, prescribed collection, where students struggle. So when you consult on your tutorial letter 111, please look at resources so that you can see the prescribed for resources for your modules, the e-reserves for your modules, and also other sources that you need to consult for your studies. Then we are here to be able to help you do that. And also we do help students to be able to request library resources from the central campus, which is your online request only. Advise students to go, whenever they are browsing their My UNISA, please visit our library page, which is your library catalog, so that you can familiarize yourself with a catalog so that we can take you through that. This is how the picture of our library catalog looks like. So students are advised that you can see that you can log into My UNISA and the library catalog will appear there. We'll also help you define books and all that, as I just indicated earlier on. I'm trying to grab to my 5 minutes that has been allocated. We do have partnerships. The students that are listening or are connected online, we want to be able to make sure that they understand that as a library, we do have partnerships, especially now in Gauteng. We have partnerships with the City of Ekurhuleni, City of Johannesburg, and Mohali City. So whenever a student has taken out a material from Gauteng or Johannesburg library, they can easily return it to one of our partner libraries, either being Ekurhuleni, either being Mohali City, so that we're trying to emphasize that the issue of distance is not a problem for our student. Those are the contact details for Ekurhuleni. The ones that are connected and are based in Ekurhuleni, you can use the UNISA library in Ekurhuleni. The ones that are in Johannesburg, where I'm residing, they can easily come to Marshalltown, Fox Street, and we do also have Sunnyside, which is in Walker Street as well. I didn't want to take much of your time. We operate from 7:45 to 1600 hours, Monday to Friday.
I've been asked to talk on a topic, how to concentrate, or what is concentration, and how to use it for best memory. I'm looking at the picture. We have the brain. When we think of the brain, most of us, we're not in contact with it, but we are most of the time utilizing our brain. And I say the brain is one of the organs that we use in part of the topic that I'm going to talk about, not necessarily the part, but in most of the things that we are talking about on the reason why we are here, we are using our brain, but it's one organ that is hidden and it is utilized. But when it is not utilized effectively, it also dies. Dying doesn't necessarily mean you die as in leaving this earth, but it becomes numb, it becomes ineffective. So today I want us to just look into what are the things that as a student I need to do for me to be able to concentrate and to be able to remember what I've studied. So we are going, in our conversation, we are going to talk on concentration, memory, what it means, and how we form our memories, and what are the things that makes us to forget, and how can we improve our memory. Concentration. I'm just wondering and thinking where you are seated. When we think of concentration, what comes to mind? Johanna there, Refilwe, what comes to your mind when I talk of concentration? Oh, okay, just to think, Anna might have said, concentration means to focus. To concentrate might mean to listen, and the other one might mean to pay attention. But just in short, I say concentrating is just that effort you direct towards learning. So every part of you that is there and you take it and you direct it to concentrate on, it could be any other thing, either assignment, it could be writing your notes, but when you concentrate is when you direct the effort towards your learning. Concentration experiences some enemies. Just like us as people, we are having enemies. There are enemies to concentration. One of the enemies to concentration is, for instance, you are studying. If maybe for like majority of you, I know we are at a distance learning. You are in this area, whether township, suburb, or wherever you are studying. If, for instance, you've got people that are talking in the space where you are going to study, that would be an enemy towards you when you'd want to concentrate. Your uncomfortable study space can also be a hindrance or an enemy towards you concentrating. Feeling tired can also be another thing that can make you lose concentration. I'm thinking some of you have lost concentration now, and because you might be feeling tired. But on top of that, others might lack sleep. And due to lack of sleep, those people might start to lose concentration as we are engaging in this activity or in this workshop. For others, there is a lot of distractions around them. Distractions can be in the study space where you are, a lot of books, but of course, Ausmpo has alluded on that we are wired differently. Other people study best in that space that is having books all over. But for others, that could be a serious hindrance or a serious concentration enemy. For other people, background noise is the challenge. But yes, indeed, I'm aware we are wired differently. A little bit of a song or movement a little bit for some, it works well. But I can say if it is too much background noise, it sort of kills that part of one wanting to concentrate. We want to understand the areas around how we form or we build our memory so that we are able to retain information. I have a picture there of you to be aware. When I showed you the brain, in the brain we've got neurons, and those neurons are there to fire. Fire meaning they catch each other or they meet each other. They connect in order to exchange information. Which information? The information that you would have acquired through different methods. So now let's look into how do we build our memory. We form our memory or we build our memory through seeing or touching. For some, it is through hearing. Of course, majority of us, we have learned or studied or acquired information through hearing because we would hear our teachers. But let me take you then to UNISA. To UNISA, for you to learn and to build your memory, it will be very much important that you get in touch with your books, meaning you have to see, you touch. For instance, if you don't open your laptop to access your tutorial material in order to see your assignment, you will not know about the questions that have been asked. And as a result, you will not be in a position to attempt to submit your assignment, as our other speaker has said, on time. And when that happens, you won't be even in a position to know if there are other people around whom you can form study groups. So when you want to study best and to be able to know things, be in touch through seeing your study work, through getting in touch, meaning you have to touch your books, you have to open them, you have to read through them. The other thing that helps us to keep things or to memorize, to keep our memory, it is important that you also hear, go for lectures, attend discussion groups, tutor lessons, online webinars, be around people. But the other thing is that as you continue to study, you can also play around some music for you to keep your memory of things that you have studied to stay in. Feelings and smelling. What is happening around you in terms of what you would be studying could be enhanced by what you be feeling. If it is, or it could be hindered. If you are studying in a very cold place, that could hinder your concentration, and that could also affect how you remember things. But if you study in a temperature that is quite conducive, that will help you. The type of things that you work on, as in your study table, your chairs, if they are either too hard or too soft and they make you not to be comfortable, that could be a hindrance in terms of you concentrating and for you to be able to retain your information and to store your everything that you have studied. But then I must say, things like the soaps, the fragrances that are around you can also assist you in terms of remembering the things that you have been studying. So those things, you must factor them. Perfumes that you put around can also enhance how you memorize your things. Why do we forget? We forget because we fail to register in the first place, meaning the minute something or the lesson is being offered, if you've got distractions and you fail to register what has been said, that becomes a hindrance towards remembering what we have studied. The other thing could be stress. You wonder, I'm working, I chose to work, I enjoy my work, I enjoy the pay, but my studies are being affected. It is because either the workload is too much that you are unable to even have time to study, and that creates stress, and that stress hinders you to sit and concentrate, and in a way you might not be in a position to remember what you have been studying. The other thing that I've seen has affected a lot of us, and that which is not spoken most of the time, is grief. Grief can come as a result of loss. Loss could come in different ways. We lose our loved ones. We lose the modules that we study. Either you lose the time to submit on time, and as a result, you lose that course. For other people, loss can come in a form of losing a job. You have lost a job, and that in itself says you are crying out, you are grieving, you are stressing. And for some people, that then becomes a hindrance towards them concentrating and remembering everything that they have to do within their lessons or their studies. Yes, somebody sitting there is listening and saying, there is this one point you are mentioning, which is ill health. Yes, indeed. For many people, the COVID has brought in other comorbidities or have made them to be weak. And as a result, they become challenged towards their studies and for them to remember. Failure to refresh or to rehearse. You must know, as a student, there is no voice. When I say voice, it's not like at school where you would hear in the class fellow students saying, hey guys, the assignment is due, or you hear your lecturer say the assignment is due. So if you fail to attend tutorial lessons, it means you'll have to go physically to your physical material. But again, if you fail to go to your physical material, and physical material, I'm talking of your assignments, and study and rehearse the work, then it means at the end, you would struggle to remember what you're supposed to put during the exams. Interferences that are coming from work demands or interferences that are coming because of personal issues. Personal issues can also mean some people struggle with finances, others struggle with marital issues or relationship issues. So those things, when they come in abundance, then they sort of affect how you would remember the work that you do. And as a result, you forget even some crucial work that you are supposed to do towards your studies. So how do I improve my memory? How do I make sure that I win? It is important that you plan. Planning has been emphasized by all my three colleagues, which one of them mentioned time management. The other one would talked about planning your study space. The other one spoke about knowing what is your learning preference. So in that, I'm saying, use that to your advantage. But at the end of the day, organize yourself, pay attention to your schoolwork, avoid absent-mindedness, use association during study time. For instance, you are studying something, you can use association, meaning I'm struggling to understand this concept in this chapter. But for instance, I give an example. You meet somebody, their name is Fox. For you to be able to remember their name, you would say, oh, they say they are fox, or I associate this with this animal that has furs and also has got sharp pointed ears. So, okay, I meet him the next time. Oh, sharp pointed ears, Fox, oh, Fox. So, hello, Mr. Fox, that's how you will remember, using the association, meaning any work that you are studying that you might be struggling to capture, use that method. Try and use it and see if it cannot work for you. For some of the work, sing it, rhyme it, use some mnemonics. Why? There are benefits when we use our mind and for us to remember, because it saves us time, it reduces anxiety and stress, it helps us with concentration, it improves motivation, but at the end of the day, it helps you to achieve your goal, which is to end well at university and achieve your qualification. Thank you.
I would like to thank the reading team for this presentation. They are very much helpful to us in this. So the other thing I want to ask here is that I know I'm getting worried about something. I can hear that they say we need to manage our time and do our assignments early. So as for me, I always find it difficult to start assignments early. Yeah? But I can do them whilst I can see that the due dates they are near to me. That's when I can start doing my work and finish up with it. But when the due date is still far from me, I just can't. I don't know how to. I can't even start doing it. I'm getting worried. Is that a danger to my studies?
Okay. So in other words, you thrive under pressure. You need pressure for you to work. Is that what you're saying?
That's when I can work.
Okay. Okay. I'll leave for one of my colleagues who were presenting to respond to your question. Thank you for your question, Ne?
All right, thank you very much.
It will be wise also to, or beneficial for him to just pop in. Sometimes you just pop into your study material, browse through just to have an idea of what is expected. Quickly note some things that are important, even without maybe doing the assignment per se. Why? Because if you pop in, if you browse through, it will assist you to check for other things that might require attention before the due date.
I would say maybe to help, I know some students like to work under pressure, maybe to help and to say that you don't cram everything in the last minute, start off with a title.
Before I actually close the session, I just want to make an announcement to all our students that we have student mentors who are available to mentor anyone who's interested. And then just to give an idea, student mentors are senior students. like, for example, Mr. Jonathan, who offers support to anyone who's interested. So my colleague will share a link for mentees to register, and then there will be a mentored as percentile. So like if you say you're in the VAL, you will allocate a mentor in the VAL, right? Yeah, and let me just dive right into it. Allow me to extend my appreciation to the program director, Mr. Munra, Mr. May, and for also actually being the one person who made us all feel welcome and at home in this visual space. And to also thank Ms. Mpomanam in absentia, you know, brain profiling, very important. Brain preference, quadrants, all of that, very important. And this is about self-awareness, to know yourself, know what works for you in terms of study skills. Studying is most definitely not a one-size-fits-all. And I think post-presentation, from post-presentation, I can say that I need to do some self-introspection as to what is my academic identity. You know, we sometimes forget that. And to also thank Ms. Mama Shumabua for sharing an insightful presentation on study skills and the importance of absorbing and retaining the information one has studied. And very key there, she spoke about understanding the difference between studying and reading. And I just want to ask, what have you been doing? You know, when studying for exam, let's negotiate support. That's all I can say, because you're not in it alone. Negotiate support from home, colleagues, your kids, even partners, because you're not an island. And to also extend my appreciation to Mr. Jonathan Viren, and who shed some light on how to become an A student at UNISA, and who also shed some important highlights on time management and how our daily routines can actually, they actually focus on time management, and mismanagement might actually be a negative impact on our studies. And to also thank one of our colleagues as well, Mr. Colin Malifen. Thank you so much, and we cannot do this alone without the library support. I mean, it's studying, which involves directly you, and your time and your effort is very much appreciated. It was very brief, but straight to the point as well. And to also thank, of course, she always comes through, Ms. Tina Mulekwa, concentration and memory. You know, we always overlook enemies to concentration. Very interesting. But thank you so much, Tina, for coming through and always coming through for us, and to also make a highlight on how we overlook these enemies of concentration and how we need to actually keep close attention to them. And I don't wanna take time, but actually, are we making a mistake not to extend my appreciation to our VIPs? Thank you so much for taking time from your very busy schedules, for bothering yourself to join us and to hear what you have been called for. You know, just say email. A simple English terms would mean it is important to respect to your call when you've been called. I know for certain that you have learned a lot from this engagement, and therefore your time and effort was worth it and not in vain, and will definitely contribute towards your studies. And to my background technical team, including myself, of course, thank you so much for making this event become a possibility, and you made sure that it ran very smoothly. And to our head of department, Dr. Pitswani, who's not with us today, we thank her for actually trusting us to implement this program. Back to you, Program Director. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sharon. I think Sharon covered everything. And as for me, Mr. Arwan from JHBCPD, I'm signing out. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for attending. And to all our presenters, thank you for the research that you put into your work. And thank you for your time and full participation. Have a lovely day further, guys. Goodbye.